Welcome to Midnight Grove, where stories remind us that even the smallest gestures can make a difference. Tonight's story, The Empty Seat, follows Noah as he notices his best friend Alex's absence from school. When he uncovers the truth that Alex has been struggling in silence, Noah must figure out how to show up for him in a way that truly matters. This is a story of friendship, mental health, and the quiet strength of simply being there. So settle in, relax, and let this story remind you that sometimes an empty seat is just waiting to be filled again. Chapter 1, The Missing Half. The school bus always felt too loud. It was filled with the usual morning chaos, kids shouting across seats, the rustling of backpacks, the occasional burst of laughter. But for Noah, none of it mattered, because his seat, the seat next to him, was empty. Again. For years, Noah and Alex had sat together on the ride to school. It was their thing. They had claimed the back row since third grade, where they would press their faces against the window, making up ridiculous stories about the people they passed. But now Alex was gone, and Noah had no idea why. A sudden absence. It started a few weeks ago. One day Alex had been there like always, grinning, nudging Noah with his elbow, rambling about some new video game he was obsessed with. The next morning his seat was empty. No text, no explanation. Just gone. At first Noah assumed Alex was sick. Then he figured it was some kind of family trip. But as days turned into weeks, the silence became harder to ignore. Noah had texted, called, even stopped by Alex's house. Nothing. It was like Alex had disappeared and nobody was saying why. The first clue. After school, Noah walked home, his thoughts spinning. Maybe he should stop worrying. Maybe Alex had just moved away and didn't want to tell him. Maybe they weren't as close as Noah had thought. But that didn't feel right. Alex wasn't the kind of friend who just left without saying goodbye. Noah kicked at a rock on the sidewalk, frustration bubbling inside him. Then, as he turned onto his street, he froze. Alex's house was still there. His mom's car was in the driveway. The porch light was on. So why hadn't Alex answered the door? A knot tightened in Noah's stomach. Something was wrong. A conversation no one wanted to have. That night at dinner, Noah pushed his food around his plate. His parents were talking about work, about weekend plans, about everything except the one thing Noah wanted to ask. Finally, he cleared his throat. Did something happen to Alex? His mom and dad exchanged a look. The kind of look that adults thought kids wouldn't notice. His dad sighed. We don't know, Bud. We haven't seen him in a while. Noah frowned. But he didn't move, right? His mom hesitated. No, but sometimes families go through things. It wasn't an answer, not really. And Noah hated not knowing. The search for answers. The next morning, Noah got to school early. He headed straight to the office, trying to look casual as he approached the front desk. Mrs. Patel, the school secretary, smiled. Good morning, Noah. What can I do for you? Noah shifted on his feet. I was just wondering, do you know when Alex is coming back? Mrs. Patel's smile faltered. "Oh, I'm not sure, sweetie." Noah frowned. "But he's still enrolled here, right?" Mrs. Patel hesitated, and that told Noah everything. Something was up. Before he could ask anything else, the bell rang, and Noah had no choice but to head to class. But now he was more determined than ever to find out the truth. A visit to the house. After school, Noah did something he probably shouldn't have. Instead of going home, he walked to Alex's house. He stood on the sidewalk, staring up at the familiar windows. He had been here 1,000 times, sleepovers, study sessions, summer afternoons playing basketball in the driveway. But now it felt different. He took a deep breath and walked up the steps. Then, before he could chicken out, he knocked. Silence. He knocked again. This time the door cracked open, just enough for Alex's mom to peer out. Her eyes were tired, really tired, like she hadn't slept in days. "Noah," she said softly, "what are you doing here?" Noah swallowed hard. I wanted to see if Alex was okay." Alex's mum's expression wavered, and for a second Noah thought she might tell him. But instead she sighed. "Alex isn't feeling well right now." Something about the way she said it made Noah's stomach twist. Not sick, not he caught the flu. Just not feeling well. And before Noah could ask more, she gently closed the door, leaving him standing there more confused than ever. The notebook. Noah didn't know what to do. He spent the next few days feeling restless, distracted, waiting for Alex to suddenly show up again. But he didn't. Then one afternoon something unexpected happened. He was sitting in the back row of the bus, their row, when he reached under the seat. His fingers brushed against something. A book. Frowning, he pulled it out. It was a notebook. Alex's notebook. Noah's breath caught. He flipped it open, his heart hammering as he recognized Alex's messy handwriting. There were doodles in the margins, half-written notes, sketches of ridiculous things they used to joke about. And then at the very back, a page filled with words that made Noah's stomach drop. "Some days it feels like too much. I don't know how to tell anyone. I don't want to be a burden." Noah's hands tightened around the notebook. Alex hadn't just disappeared. He had been hurting. And Noah had never known. A choice. For the first time in weeks, Noah knew what he had to do. He wasn't going to sit around wondering. He wasn't going to wait for answers. He was going to be there. Even if Alex wasn't ready to talk. Even if he didn't have the right words. Because the empty seat next to him wasn't just empty. It was waiting. And Noah was going to make sure Alex knew that whenever he was ready, his place was still there, waiting for him to come back. Chapter 2: The Space Between Us. Noah had never felt so helpless. He had spent weeks wondering where Alex had gone. Now he knew. Alex hadn't moved away. He hadn't gotten sick. He had been struggling, really struggling, and Noah had never noticed. That fact sat like a stone in his chest. The words in Alex's notebook haunted him. "I don't want to be a burden." How long had he been feeling like this? And why hadn't he told Noah? Noah thought they told each other everything. But now it was clear. Alex had been dealing with something alone. and Noah hadn't been there when he needed him most. The first attempt. That night, Noah sat on his bed, Alex's notebook resting in his lap. He had read the words over and over, but they didn't change. His fingers hovered over his phone. He could text Alex, call him. But what if Alex didn't answer? Or worse, what if he did, but he didn't want to talk? Noah gritted his teeth. This isn't about you, he told himself. It's about Alex. So before he could second-guess himself, he typed out a message. Noah, hey, I don't know if you want to talk, but I'm here. Just wanted you to know. He stared at the screen, willing it to light up with a response. Seconds passed. Minutes. Nothing. Noah let out a slow breath. Okay. Alex wasn't ready. That didn't mean Noah was giving up. A conversation with Mom. The next morning, Noah pushed his cereal around in the bowl, his appetite gone. His mom noticed. She always did. What's on your mind? She asked gently. Noah hesitated. He wanted to tell her. But part of him felt like it wasn't his secret to share. Still, he needed to talk to someone. So he settled on, "It's Alex." His mom set down her coffee. "Have you heard from him?" Noah shook his head. "Not really, but I found something." He stopped, choosing his words carefully. "I think he's been having a hard time." His mom's expression softened. "Oh, sweetheart." Noah swallowed. "I don't know what to do. I texted him, but he didn't answer." His mom was quiet for a moment, then said, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is just remind someone you're there, even if they don't respond, even if they don't seem like they want you to be." Noah exhaled slowly. "So I just keep trying?" She nodded. "Keep showing up. Let him know he's not alone." Noah nodded. He could do that. A message in a notebook. That afternoon, Noah sat in the back row of the school bus, their row, turning Alex's notebook over in his hands. The words inside still made his chest ache. "I don't know how to tell anyone." Well, Alex didn't have to. Noah was going to tell him first. Pulling out a pen, he flipped to the page Alex had written on, and beneath his friend's words wrote his own. "You don't have to go through this alone. I'm still here. The seat next to me is still yours." Then, gripping the notebook tightly, he made a decision. He was going back to Alex's house. The door opens. Noah had been to Alex's house 100 times before. But today, as he stood on the porch, his stomach twisted with nerves. He raised his fist and knocked. Footsteps. Then, slowly, the door creaked open. Alex stood there. Noah barely recognized him at first. His usual bright energy was gone. His hoodie was oversized, his face paler than before, his eyes tired, really tired. For a second, they just stared at each other. Then Alex blinked. "Noah?" His voice was rough, like he hadn't spoken in a while. Noah's throat felt tight. "Hey!" Alex shifted. "What are you doing here?" Noah held up the notebook. "I found this." Alex's eyes flickered with something. Shock, embarrassment, maybe even fear. His voice faltered. "You read it?" Noah hesitated, then he nodded. "Yeah." Alex swallowed hard. His hands twitched at his sides like he was ready to run. But Noah didn't let him. "Alex," he said, keeping his voice steady, You're my best friend. You don't have to do this alone. Alex's breath hitched. I don't know how to talk about it. Noah took a step closer. Then don't talk, just come sit with me. Alex hesitated. Then slowly, cautiously, he nodded. And for the first time in weeks, he stepped outside. Sitting together again. They walked in silence side by side. Not to school, not to anywhere in particular. Just together. Finally, after a long pause, Alex whispered, I didn't want you to know. Noah swallowed. Why? Alex shrugged, staring at the sidewalk. Because I didn't want to be a problem. I didn't want you to think I was broken or weak or... Stop. Alex blinked, startled. Noah took a deep breath. You're not weak, and you're definitely not a problem. You're my best friend. Alex's throat bobbed. He looked away. I didn't know how to tell you. Noah softened. You didn't have to. I just wish I had noticed sooner. Alex gave a shaky laugh. You noticed now. Noah nudged his shoulder. Yeah, and I'm not going anywhere. Alex swallowed hard. Thanks. Noah nodded. Then, after another beat of silence, Alex Mound smiled. Just barely, but it was real. For the first time in weeks, it felt like something was shifting. Not fixed, not perfect, but better. And that was enough. The first step back. The next morning, Noah got on the school bus like always. He walked toward the back, and this time when he sat down, the seat next to him wasn't empty. Alex slid in beside him, letting out a slow breath. This feels weird. Noah grinned. Yeah, but the good kind of weird. Alex gave a small nod. Yeah. Then, as the bus pulled away, Noah reached into his backpack, pulled out a notebook and flipped to a blank page. So, he said, want to make up stories about random people again? Alex let out a real laugh this time, obviously. And just like that, things weren't the same as before, but they were better. And that was enough. Thank you for joining us at Midnight Grove for the empty seat. Noah's story reminds us that sometimes the most important thing we can do for someone is to be there, even when they don't have the words to ask for help. As you drift into sleep, may this story leave you with a sense of warmth, hope, and the reminder that no one has to face things alone. Sleep well, and we'll see you next time for another meaningful bedtime story.